a people who call on the name of the Lord. Now, that sounds casual until you recognize that these people he's writing to, he calls sanctified, are also the same people he's challenging to stop sexual immorality. There are some people he's challenging to stop fights. There are some people he's challenging to display the glory of God. You see, sometimes we think that the people who are called the Church of Christ, the Church of God, have reached their perfection. The Corinthian church had many issues, but Paul continues to point them to see themselves as a people that are sanctified. God is doing a work in them. Holy, God has set them apart. God has recognized them as people who call on the name of the Lord. Just in case you are that brother who's still struggling, don't give up on yourself. God's calling on your life is set. Your goal is to get there. So, two lessons we learn from this text where we find this call to display the glory of God. First of all, privilege does not guarantee success. We read that, I don't want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud, and they all passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food, drank the same spiritual drink. They drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. Verse 5 is the clincher. Nevertheless, God was not pleased with most of them. Their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. A people who were privileged to experience God's presence every day as they walked from the land of slavery to the land of promise. The people who are privileged to experience God's protection, because as we read in Exodus chapter 13, this cloud was an opportunity to was a picture of God's presence in their midst, but also was the one that gave guidance and helped them to know where they were to move to. But also, we know that God used this cloud in Exodus 14:19-20 to move behind them and create a sort of a wall behind them and their Egyptian enemies. For the Egyptians, it was darkness. For the Israelites, it was light. It was literally a wall of protection. People who saw God providing for them in the desert every day, as they moved, there was always a rock that provided water. As they moved, there was always a pillar of fire in the night. God's presence was visibly with them. Chapter 10, verse 5 has that conjunction. In some translations, it is but. In other translations, it is nevertheless. Nevertheless, God was not pleased with most of them. Now, on the coastline of Japan, there are many ancient stone tablets written for generations to remind people of the risks of the tsunamis. One of these is in the village of Anesh. And at the bottom, as you move towards the ocean, you find this stone tablet with this message: remember the calamity of the great tsunamis. Do not build any homes beyond this point. Generations who have not experienced the tsunamis think that's casual. So they ignored this information. They ignored this warning. And they built beyond this point. In 2011, a great tsunami swept part of the coast of Japan. And in this village, everybody who had built Above this point, their homes survived. Anybody who built below this point, ignored, became part of the statistic. Because 29,000 people, over 29,000 people, perished in that tsunami because they failed to heed the warning. The Apostle Paul writes, telling us, as we will look at the history of God's people and the privilege they had of special relationship with God, we are to be reminded to not take that for granted. Because when they did, God was not pleased with most of them, and many of them perished in the desert. There's a risk for ignoring God's warning. So, the second thing we want to think about as we look at this text is privilege comes with responsibility. These people who had such privilege had a responsibility to obey. So in verse 6, these things happened as examples to keep us from setting our hearts on evil things as they did. So verse 7, don't be idolaters as some of them were. Verse 8, don't commit sexual immorality as some of them did. And in one death, 23,000 of them died. Don't test Christ as some of them did, and they were killed by snakes. Verse 10, don't grumble as some of them did, and they were killed by the destroying angel. So, they did not appreciate that their privilege required that they are responsible in responding to God's command in their life. They ignored it. They became idolaters. They committed sexual immorality. They tested God. They grumbled. And they perished in the desert. The other place where this responsibility plays into the picture is in the theme that is being discussed in this chapter of eating food offered to idols. Because there were some of us who were saying it doesn't matter whether we eat food offered to idols or not, because they're simply idols, and that is true. But what Paul is saying, whereas eating food offered to idols is not a real big thing, but you don't want what you do to impact your weaker brother, cause them to stumble. So whether you eat or whether you drink, do all for the glory of God. That's the context in which our verse 31, is found. Whether you eat, whether you drink, do it all for the glory of God. Don't cause anyone to stumble, whether Jews, Greeks, or the church of God. And he says, even as I try to please everyone in every way, for I am not seeking my own good, but the good of many, so that they may be saved. Because you want people to be saved, there are some things you say yes to or not to for the glory of God. So, 3 applications. First of all, set the goal. Let our descriptive markers as a church of God, a people sanctified, a holy people, become goals for your daily life. Be a man who wants to be, in your daily life, be sanctified, be set apart in your life. Second, let your privilege cause you to succeed in living in obedience to God. Just as the Apostle Paul says, I have noted that I have already obtained it, or I have already got my goal, but I press on to hold on for that which Christ Jesus has taken hold of me, forgetting what lies behind and straining towards the goal. So keep focused on becoming that man that God has called you to be. And whatever you do, do all for the glory of God.
Good Day TV, transforming.
in 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 18 to 20. This church I commit to this son, Timothy, according to the prophecies which went before on thee, that thou by them might war a good warfare, holding faith and a good conscience, which some have put away concerning faith, have made shipwreck, of whom is Hymenaeus and Alexander, who I have delivered to Satan, that they may learn not to blaspheme. Paul was writing to his son Timothy, and he's giving him a church like a military church. He was a man that started on the journey of faith when he was young. And in his journey, he loved the Lord. The Bible tells us he got his faith from his grandmother, from his mother, and Paul was convinced that the same faith was upon him. As a young man in a small fellowship, the Lord picked him to be a companion with Paul. And by this time, Paul had beseeched him to be in Ephesus and continue to do some ministry there. Paul says to him that you may fight, that you may war a good warfare. I know to talk about war is not a very good subject, but I want to tell you, Christian life is warfare. Christian life is a warfare.
Wano mu Kampala ekifo kiri kimu kyokka w'oyinza okujja ebyuma bya music ebiri original nkwanjulira Pastel Music Center. Balina ebyuma eby'omulembe nga keyboards, amplifiers, jazz drums, microphones, woofers, screens, mixers, giteeze ekika kyonna ebyuma ebikola studio n'ebya brass band byonna, stage lights na buli kimu kyonna ekikozesebwa mu music bakirina. Basange wa Kiseka, Chagwe Road, ku Justin Arcade, ground floor, shop number G73, next to Ranico Music Plaza, mu basement, shop number B4. Wewali nnyo abafere abayita Pastel. Kubira Pastel yennyini ku 0782 00 84 43 oba 0752 00 84 43. Bw'oba oyagala ebyuma bya music ebiri original byokka ate ku miwendo egy'omukwano ansi ogisanga wa Pastel Music Center.
Tosubwa ku Gugudde TV.
Balamusiza mwenna balabi ba Gugudde TV era nze abalamusaako amanya nze James Eremye Jumire Mawanda nga nze omwogezi w'essiga eddamuzi. Tugenda kweyunga ku Gugudde TV fenga essiga eddamuzi tuyigiriza Abannayuganda amateeka era Gugudde TV yanjula programu eya minzaani kabonero kaffe nga essiga eddamuzi kwe tuteeka abantu baffe okubakakasa nti buli muntu wano mu Uganda yenkanankana ne munne kwe tubateeka ku mizaani, tewali ali wansi oba waggulu w'amateeka. Amateeka y'enkola eteekebwawo mu nsi zonna era ne mu ggwanga lyaffe Uganda. Abantu be tulina okutambuliranga okulabika nti eddembe lyaffe ne bye tukola byonna tewaliwo alityoboola. Nze ndowooza nsonga eyo nkulu nnyo. Ebigambo ebyo tujja bisanga ku Gugudde TV buli Lwakuna essaawa 9 ez'emisana. Gwe tegeeza ali eyo nti tugenda kuyiga amateeka, ate bwe tumala okuyiga amateeka olwo tubeere bagezi kubanga batubuulidde. Omuganda agamba nti ndi mugezi nga ki? Bamubuulirire. Tujja kulabagana ku olwo.
tosubwa ku Google TV.
Mukama yebaza baboluganda mu Kristo Yesu. Amanya agange bampita omutume Moses Chikule Nkoyoyo. Nga nzize okutegeeza nti amawulire amalungi nti tugenda kuba ne programu lwa kunaku ssaawa 3:30. Program bagita Things Don't Just Happen. Ebintu tebimala gabeerawo. Tugenda kuba nga programu eno nga tugabana ebigambo by'amagezi, ebigambo by'okumanya, ebigambo by'okutegeera. Bayibuli egamba nti Katonda yali agamba Ibrahimu va mu nsi yannyo mu Luberebera 12 nti ogenda mu nsi gye n'akulaga. Katonda alina amagenda gaffe ffenna era gazze okwogera naawe nange era obulamu buli lwakuna ssaawa 3:30. Mukama n'abawa omukisa nga muwuliriza nga mulaba programu gye bayita Things Don't Just Happen. Ebintu tebimala gabeerawo ku TV eno. Mukama n'akuwa omukisa. Jangu tugabaneko ffenna jangu twewagale mu linnya lya Yesu Kristo mu maanyi ag'Omutukuvu. Mukama n'abampeera omukisa nga muwuliriza programu eno Things Don't Just Happen. Ebintu tebimala gabeerawo. Amiina. Mukama abawa omukisa.
Tosubwa ku Google TV.
Abagalwa abalungi, erinnya lya Mukama waffe Yesu Kristo lyebazibwe nnyo. Mbalamusizzaako. Amannya gange nze Kasozi Robert Cephas. Mbanjulira programu ennungi mwogenda okuyita okusisinkana Kristo, okwate ku bisuubizo, osumululwe, owangule, eyitibwa You Can Be Delivered. Ngekutusibwako obuweereza obwa Raising David's Tabernacle Ministries wano ku Google TV. Buli lwa Sande okutandika essaawa 5 ez'ekiro. N'olwokusatu okutandika essaawa 3 ez'akawungeezi tugendanga kubeera wamu. Oludde mu bulwadde, olinayo ebintu byonna ebyekutawaanya wadde nga walokoka. Olinayo ebintu ebyo nga obisabidde naye nga bigaanyi. Oba nsonga ya birooto, ng'ebirooto bikufuukidde ebirooto tobitegeera, ogezezzaako eno n'eno. Programu eno egenda kubeeramu essuubi, ekyokuddamu, okuwangula, okubotola, mu maka, mirimu n'ebirala bingi. Kale nkusaba onneegatteko wano ku Google TV. Akaseera ako kagenda kuba kakusumululwa. Nkulinze, Mukama akutwera omukisa. Tosubwa programu eno.
Google TV, transforming your life. Google TV, transforming your life.
To Google Data Vision. This is Health and Beauty program with me, Kamara Daniel, every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. And of course, I would want to thank you for being a good viewer for Google Data Vision. And of course, just like I often want to tell you that with all this big smile for the Health and Beauty program that I have every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. And of course, bringing to you different health specialists that have mastered that piece of health expertise. And of course, willingly to come here and health educate and bring to you the most current and prevailing health information across the country. And of course, these specialists, they are very, very rare. Getting them is usually a hard nail. So once they're here, we usually ask you to utilize them very, very fully so that you can benefit from them. And of course, just to know we are live from Makerefo Gospel Church at Sapporo Kagwa Road. It's where we are located. Anytime, all day, you can always come here and watch us. But also we are streaming live on social media platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook and LinkedIn, so that you can find more information. And this very important program is running right now as we speak. Now tonight, very important of its kind is that one talk about autism, and statistics or relevant findings have actually told us that 88% 88% or 88 people in 10,000 children live with this very important condition, and 1 in 100 children have this condition. And of course, very many beliefs and misconceptions in the public have alluded to different conditions. Others call it witchcraft, others, and so much more. But of course, the specialist, Mr. Rogers Mutawe, he will be teaching us more about what autism is, who is at risk of getting autism. And according to his experience as an executive director for Bamboo Children's Home, he has a lot of experience to share with us at Google Data Vision Health and Beauty Program. Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Kindly introduce yourself to our viewers. Feel free to tell us everything about yourself and how you are managing autism at your health facility. First experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you indeed, Daniel, for having me here. I'd like to thank the Almighty God that has brought us here. Thank you so much, Google Day TV management, for giving this opportunity and a platform for our viewers out there to know more about this condition that is so much on a rise, and yet not so many people have a lot of information about it. My name is Aloysius Mutawe. I am an occupational therapist working for close to 9 years now in a pediatric range, and as a matter of fact, I am the director of Golden Bamboo Special Children's Center, a place where we do treatment. We treat children with autism, we take care of them, we rehabilitate them, and we train them to become very independent and productive people. So that is what we do as Golden Bamboo Special Children's Center. And as an occupational therapist, today I am here to talk about, to throw more light, like our viewers out there get to know more about this condition called autism. Once again, thank you so much, Daniel, for having me today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Rogers Mtawe, for coming through to Google Data Vision, of course, to help educate our communities and, of course, bring your expertise to us. We appreciate and want to thank you for coming. But very much important is that request our viewers to share their questions on our WhatsApp numbers that will be shared on their TVs or screen, wherever they'll be watching from. But also, if you're on our social media platforms, please keep there and send us a hi, and we shall say hi to you wherever you are watching us from, because we love you so much, and I want to extend my love to every viewer of Health and Beauty Program. Now, Mr. Rogers, the statistics have showed us that 88 people in 10,000 and 100 people. Isn't this a very small number? Actually, we may neglect it. Don't you think so? What makes you feel special about children with autism?
Thank you so much for that question. Actually, Daniel, to begin on the side of the prevalence, the question about the statistics, as much as over 80 children in 10,000 population of children manifesting with this condition of autism sounds a little bit negligible to the children's population. We need to note that international health organizations, for example, World Health Organization, actually also to note the Centers for Disease Control, those two organizations have lately, for the past 1 decade, noted a rising trend of this condition of autism. Now, there is a possibility, because first of all we have to note that there is a very big gap in terms of statistical data available about this condition.
Very
as
much.
A matter of fact,
I do not know how many researches have been done here in Uganda regarding autism, because this data was, to get this information, really, I had to first read a lot.
Exactly. It's not easily accessible. But on the other hand, you realize that those few databases, resources that are providing this kind of statistics are giving threatening information. There is a notable rising trend of this condition called autism amongst children. That statistics are saying, reflectively, there is a possibility that in the next 1 decade, you may find the percentage is rising from 1% to almost 4%.
Okay.
So that is how scary it is. And I mean, we don't know what is coming tomorrow. It could be any person's child. My viewer watching us, it could be someone's child out there. So the better is getting ourselves equipped with this information about this condition and know what exactly should be done in case you get a child with this condition called autism.
Perfect. Now, thank you so much. Now, we would want also now to know what autism means. Kind of dig deeper into what autism means. How can viewers actually, it's better actually if you bring in some Uganda so that people, if you're sure of the Uganda so that people can understand which condition we are talking about.
Thank you so much. Now, autism is a lifelong neurodevelopmental disorder that affects a child's communication, social interaction, and behavior. Yembeera eno gye twogerako ya autism yembeera ey'olubeerera, lifelong, ebeerawo olubeerera. Embeera eno etaataaganya obwongo bw'omwana n'emulemesa okusobola okuyiga emirimu egikolebwa omwana yenna akula. Okugeza, omwana akula abaako ebintu by'ajjaayiga, emirimu egya bulijjo ng'okutuula, okutambula, okutandika okwogera, okutabagana wamu ne banne nga bazannya n'okutwaliza awamu ebintu ebirala byonna. N'empisa oba embeera zonna abaana abakula ze beeyisaamu zimanyiddwa. Wabula omwana ono alina embeera ya autism